Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the National Timely Action Hour podcast. This is the show where we talk about everything from Spider-Man to Superman and everything in between. My name is Aiden, and I hope that you're doing well today. So, this is Season 5, Episode 4, and in this episode, I will be ranking the Spider-Man films based on my personal preference, so feel free to disagree with me in the comments section. And while you're down there, if you're new to my show and want to check out more episodes like this, then please subscribe and share this with your friends if they're interested in this sort of content. And I post this on Spotify.com and YouTube.com. So in the YouTube version, in the description, I'll leave a link to my main YouTube channel, the National Timely Action Hour. So please consider subscribing there if you'd like to watch videos of me reviewing Spider-Man movies or comic books. And I'll also leave links to my social media profile, so if you'd like to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, or Discord, you can send me a message on either one of those websites, or just follow updates on my channel. And I'll also leave links to my Patreon page and merch store, so if you'd like to support this show financially, I'd greatly appreciate that. But once again, this is just my personal preference, so please feel free to disagree with me. But starting from number 10 and counting down to number 1, with number 1 being my all-time favorite. At number 10, I have The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This movie is, to be diplomatic, is a hot mess, and I understand that there was a lot going on behind the scenes, but the final finished film just sucks, and it's a shame because they had a lot of potential going into this, but I am very disappointed with the final result. And moving on to number 9, I have Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, that's not to say that this movie is the worst thing I've ever seen. Obviously, I think that Amazing Spider-Man 2 is worse, but I do enjoy Far From Home for its, high school antics and its, story of Peter Parker living his life. And I appreciate how it deals with the fallout of the Avengers 4, and I also really like how they develop his romance with Mary Jane. However, and I like Jake Gyllenhaal as an actor, but as Mysterio, I'm not a fan of how he played it, and his plot overall, I'm not a fan of how that turned out. But again, this movie had a lot of potential. I think they squandered that potential, but nonetheless, they had potential. And like I said, I do enjoy parts of it, but overall, it's pretty forgettable, in my opinion. Then at number 8, I have The Amazing Spider-Man. This is the first time that they rebooted the film franchise. And I like Andrew Garfield, and I think that he does a decent job in this movie. However, I think that there are better movies than his movies. And, I do like Reese Ihrfan's performance as the Lizard. He was great. But, and Andrew's chemistry with Emma Stone, who played Gwen Stacy, they had great chemistry, and they dated in real life as well, so that really adds to that. And overall, decent movie. Could have been worse, could have been better, but yeah. At number 7, this might be a little controversial, but I have Spider-Man 3. Again, this movie is a hot mess, but I find slightly more enjoyment in it than the bottom 3. But I do acknowledge the issues that Spider-Man 3 has. But to be fair, if you really dig deep down into this movie, peel away the layers of the corporate, of the studio interference and the corporate bullshit, you just look at this as a character study, I really enjoy it. And I think obviously the memes help, soften the blow. But, if you look deep down, there's a good movie in this. And it's a shame that it's, piled on top of, it's dogpiled by all this crappy decisions. But at number 6, I have Across the Spider-Verse. And overall, not much to complain about. This is part 2 of a trilogy that at the time of recording this has not been finished, but I'm sure if you're listening to this in the future, Beyond the Spider-Verse has already come out and you've already enjoyed it, or, it might be crappy, who knows. But Across the Spider-Verse does a really good job of building on what they had set up in the first film, and really expands on the characters of Spider-Gwen and obviously Miles, since he's the protagonist. And we get to see other Spider-Men from across the Spider-Verse, hence the title. But, yeah, funny jokes, beautiful animation, and overall a good story and good music. Not much to complain about. At number 5, I have Spider-Man Homecoming. This is the first movie in the MCU Spider-Man franchise. And I think that even though we all like to joke about how Tom Holland played Iron Man Jr., this movie was what the franchise needed. And I really appreciate how it actually allowed Spider-Man to be in the MCU. Obviously, he was introduced to the MCU the year previous in Captain America 3, and I really enjoyed his role there, albeit it was a small role, but hey, beggars cannot be choosers. And Spider-Man Homecoming really builds on that and really fleshes out his character in this universe. And obviously, Michael Keaton is spectacular as the Vulture. He's one of the greatest actors of his generation. And having him go from playing Batman to a Spider-Man villain is, inspired. And I really like Tom Holland as Spider-Man, and his chemistry with the rest of the cast is all great. And I just think that it's a really solid movie. My only complaint really is that they made him too reliant on Iron Man, but then that is remedied in the later films, which I appreciate. And I get that, he's a young kid looking for a mentor, but at the same time, he's his own man, and he should, set his own path, which is what he eventually does. But Uncle Ben being omitted from this movie is a grave mistake, and placing that role on Iron Man I am not a fan of, but overall I like the movie. Then at number 4 I have Into the Spider-Verse. This was my introduction to Miles Morales, actually. I have stopped regularly reading comic books. I quit reading comic books over 10 years ago, but, I duck my head in every now and then to see what's going on. And I'll buy stuff that's stories that are set on alternate universes, but that's neither here nor there. But Into the Spider-Verse was my introduction to Miles Morales, and I, fell in love with his world, and I really enjoyed the animation style, the music, I believe it won the Oscar for Best Animated Film, which is good, and which is a great accomplishment for a movie based on Spider-Man. But I really like how it shows the multiverse, but also sticking, pun intended, to the main story of Miles Morales and his journey into becoming Spider-Man. And I really enjoy the actors' performances. They all do a good job, and yeah, not much to complain about. It's a great movie. At number 3, I have Spider-Man No Way Home. This is the end of Tom Holland's first trilogy in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at the time of recording, which is March 2026. We are a few months away until his 4th film. He recently renegotiated with Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios to get a 5-picture deal. He's getting 3 more solo Spider-Man films, and he will be playing key roles in the upcoming Avengers films, which is spectacular. But to cap off Tom's original trilogy, this was a great film. Obviously, it brings back Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire and their villains. They all seamlessly go back into their roles, and it gives the MCU cast more to do, which I appreciate, and it deals with the immediate aftermath of Far From Home, so I like to see how Peter deals with the consequences of his actions. And overall, just a great film, and it really showed me personally that Tom Holland has the potential to be the greatest live action, at least, portrayal of Spider-Man. However, at number 2, I have the first Spider-Man film. Well, not the first actual film. This is theatrical because there was a couple of TV movies in the 70s, but I'm talking theatrical. Theatrically released. So the first theatrically released Spider-Man film, back in 2002, directed by Sam Raimi, the master of horror, and starring Tobey Maguire as the web slinger. This film is nigh perfect. I absolutely love it, and it holds a special place in my heart. And it's not just nostalgia, it's great filmmaking, it's great storytelling through the medium of film. It's a great adaptation, and overall, no notes. It's, either a perfect 10 or just almost reaching that point. And at number 1, my all-time favorite film based on Spider-Man is the sequel to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, released in 2004. This film is perfect, in my opinion. It shows the struggles of being a hero. It shows the struggles of being a man. It shows what one must do to achieve greatness. It shows how good men can turn evil and how evil men can turn good, and it is just the cream of the crop, in my opinion. And a lot of people do agree with me, rightfully so, because this film's themes, its music, its story, the acting, the visual effects won an Oscar. Everything about this movie is pitch perfect. And yeah, that is my ranking of the theatrically released Spider-Man films. Like I said, please feel free to disagree with me, but let me know if you agree with me or not in the comments section. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the National Timely Action Hour podcast. Once again, my name is Aiden, and I sincerely hope that you all have a wonderful day. Goodbye.